Right, hello there and welcome to Devlog 6. Today will be a different video than normal because I won't actually be working on the game. Instead, I will be explaining some of the lore behind it. Because I've been working really hard to creating a world that the game will take place in, I've been working hard on characters that exist in that world, and of course a story that will combine the two. But I haven't actually shared any of that with you. So that is what today's video is for. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Of course, we start with the most important character of them all, Luke. I've already talked about him in a previous devlog, but I hadn't gone into too much detail because I didn't know those details yet. But now I do, so here we go. Luke is the representation of UI, interfaces, and user interaction. If you click a button, it's Luke that handles that input. And if you don't know what that would look like, imagine you are clicking on the Firefox icon. It's Luke's job to then go to Firefox and tell them the controller, which is you, has clicked your icon, you gotta go. So Luke has the same job as the playable character that he has as a universe character. And that is enabling you to interact and communicate with the desktop, all through Luke. Right, now let's move on to another very important character. Currently he doesn't have a name yet, so if you think of a good one based on what I'm about to tell you, please let me know. Right, so this character is almost the opposite of Luke. He is the representation of the underlying system of a computer. He is the one that has control over almost everything. You can see him as the admin or the root of the computer, or at least the system that's behind it. He visually looks like an old man with a long beard and grey, almost white hair. He lives beneath the desktop on the deepest layer of existence inside the computer. He is also blind, which means he doesn't actually know what's going on unless another system or program tells him. And that is actually a perfect segue to our story. You see, viruses have invaded the computer that the game takes place on. They haven't taken over everything yet, but they've gotten past the firewall, so it's just a matter of time before they take over the computer. And this is where you and Luke come in. It's Luke's job to inform the admin system, who currently doesn't have a name, that there are viruses inside the computer. And once they've done that, he can easily eliminate them one by one. But he does have to know what's going on, and due to his blindness and him living far away from everything that's happening, he has no clue. And that is the story of the game. You gotta travel to this underlying system to tell him what's going on. And once you've done that, the game will end. Or it won't. You see, I don't know if this is going to be the only story at play. And I don't know if the game is done when you reach the end of this storyline. And the reason for that is that I'm not done yet. With both this video and the rest of the lore, I haven't written everything yet. And I probably won't for a long time. Because I currently don't know enough about the game I'm making to plan too far ahead. But even if I don't know the full story yet, I can still explain more about the world that the story is set in. First off, an important thing to realize is that this computer isn't functioning normally. You see, this game takes place 7 years after this computer had been used for the last time. And in those 7 years, programs and systems have gotten outdated, mistakes started to arise, and some of them completely stopped functioning. Due to all of this, the viruses had a chance to get in and started causing chaos. Certain combinations of viruses started affecting the performance of the computer in such a way that it couldn't run normally anymore. This is where something strange happened and everything changed. The programs and systems, desperate to still be able to function, started looking for a solution. And they went with the first thing they could find: copying humans. They saw that humans take time to think and go about their business much slower. But somehow humans are still very effective in what they do. They also saw that humans were good at solving problems. So if they were to copy them, they might be able to solve their problem. 7 years long, the computer spent perfecting copying humans and making it as efficient as possible. Luckily, because the computer ran so slow, it took the viruses years to get to a new system, instead of the days, hours, or maybe even minutes it would have normally taken them. But this also had the disadvantage that the copying took a lot longer. A couple months before you get into all of this, they get to where they're at right now. Pretty good at copying humans, but not focusing on the actual problem. And this is where our world setup catches up with our story and characters. Remember the system that controls everything? You know, the one that doesn't have a name yet? he is responsible for the copying of humans. But because he doesn't come in contact with the actual problem, which of course are the viruses, he is working on the wrong solution and he doesn't know it. So someone has to tell him. And that's our story right there. And just for the record, I'm aware that this is all very unrealistic, in the sense that copying humans is the worst decision the computer could have made. If a computer could even make decisions, that is. But you gotta realize that this is a game where things on your desktop basically come alive. And I've given up trying to make it even remotely realistic. I now treat it as some kind of fantasy game that happens to take place on a desktop. I just have a lot more creative freedom doing it that way. And I think that's really important to come up with an interesting story. Right, so I've talked about the backstory of this game and the story you'll be playing. I've explained the two most important characters, but I haven't actually talked about the world you'll be playing in. Well, not really. You see, that backstory was necessary for you to understand the current situation. The blind guy without a name has gotten pretty far in the process of copying humans, but it's not quite there yet. It's hanging around 80 to 90% completion, which means the world will look a lot like our own, just with worse graphics and in a two-dimensional space. But like I said, it's not perfect. There will be subtle mistakes and things just missing. But there is one mistake that is extremely obvious. In the process of copying the human race inside a computer, it didn't actually consider time a factor. And with time, I don't mean that thing displayed on a clock. I mean time periods. The computer took data from all of human history. Of course, on certain things there was more data than others, so those things were preferred. But still, it used data from almost every time period. This means that there are a lot of different areas set in different times, or at least the architecture is. You see, buildings are very easy to recreate, at least in a 2D environment, and you don't need much data to do it, which means the computer didn't have to mix anything because it had enough data for the buildings from every single time period, or at least the ones we have data on. Which leads me to my next point. There will be villages in this game, and those will be pretty important. It's where you'll meet the most characters, and when you enter, it's almost guaranteed that you'll leave with some sort of quest. I'm honestly really excited to design those, art and gameplay wise. But now I'm straying a bit from the lore part of things and going more into the direction of gameplay, which is fun, but it's not what this video is for. It's what next video is for. A video that will hopefully be coming out in about a week. But don't take my word for it, because I'm not that good at keeping deadlines. This video was supposed to come out on Friday, but I can probably guarantee you that it will come out within 2 weeks. But that is actually it for this video. I know I haven't talked about that much, but the things I have talked about are extremely important. And if you have any questions or suggestions about the lore or the game in general, make sure to join my Discord server, where I can answer those questions, or we can just have a nice little chat. Also, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, like this video if you liked it, and I will see you in the next devlog. Bye.